All right. Well, welcome back to the 2020 Financial Empowerment Summit, hosted by Chicago Treasurer Melissa Conyears-Ervin. I'm back as your host today for the masterclass sessions. My name is Jason Schraub, and I'm the National Vice President for Partnerships of Operation Hope. I am a proud resident of Chicago, and I'm told that I might actually get called on as I'm also a recent homeowner in the city of Chicago. And so perhaps there are ways that it's going to be pulled back in my direction. But we have an amazing panel here today to be talking about home ownership, and specifically wealth building through home ownership. Our moderator today is going to be Walter DEES, who is joined by Ashley Manigo, Ava Dixon, Sarah Ware, and Chester Bell. So we have a realtor on the line. We have a financial well-being coach on the line. We have a foreclosure avoidance specialist on the line. We have a banker from US Bank on the line. So we are going to be able to cover all of your needs and all of your questions around how do we build wealth through home ownership, and how do we become a homeowner, and how are we successful as a homeowner here in Chicago. Already today, we've heard some amazing panels around credit and money management and around small business. If you need a recording of anything that we've gone through already, it will be available through the City Treasurer's website, as well as the Hoover website and app. Additionally, after this conversation, we will be having at 12:30 today our keynote presentation, which will be City Treasurer Melissa Conyears-Ervin in a fireside chat with Operation Hope CEO and Chairman John Hope Bryant. You will not want to miss that. And following that will be our masterclass on investing in the stock market and teaching your youth financial literacy. So we've still got a lot of great stuff on the docket today, but right now, this is what I'm excited for. How to build wealth through home ownership in our masterclass. So I'll turn it over to Walter DEES to go ahead and get us started.
Thank you very much, Jason. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. We have a lot of information to cover in a short period of time. You're never going to get enough of home ownership. So we're going to get started right away. How to build wealth through home ownership. There are several ways to build wealth through home ownership, and we're going to let our panel give us all the great and wonderful things that we can do to build wealth and make sure that we are moving in the right direction financially. But I just want to share one slide with everyone so you can see what I mean about building wealth through home ownership. So as we have our ability to build wealth through home ownership, and we talked about the most important things to look for as you try to go on that path. For me, the most important thing in building wealth in home ownership is simply ownership. You cannot build wealth without being a participant in the process. So if you look at this graph, it shows, and can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So if you look at this graph, it shows that homeowners are 40 times greater and have 40 times greater net worth than renters. If you look at the graph on the left, you'll see $120,000 is the value of the home, and $135 would typically be the value of other things like furniture, jewelry, stocks, bonds, 401ks, savings, things of that nature. So if you really pay attention to this and understand that ownership, home ownership will make a difference in your ability to build net worth. As we go through this process, please make sure that you put your questions in the chat box. And we will definitely get to all of the questions today. I just wanted to make sure I give everyone something to think about as we move forward in this process. And I did want to ask Jason to share his story with us about his home ownership experience. If you would, Jason, just for a short period of time, maybe about 2 minutes, give us a good run through of how your experience was. Jason, over to you.
Absolutely. So I became a homeowner in the end of February in this year, which actually made for a very unique time to become a homeowner, as I moved in on March 13th, which we may know was right when the pandemic started. And so I've gotten to know every inch, every corner, every nook and cranny of the condo that I've been in for about 24/7 for 9 months now. But for me, becoming a homeowner was really critical in terms of I felt like I was throwing away my money when I was renting. And I had been renting for my entire life up until this year. And I found a place right across the street from where I was renting in Wicker Park. And what I chose to do, for me, what made sense was I live in a 2-bed, 2-bath with a roommate. And what that means is that my mortgage, taxes, insurance, and HOA are almost exactly the same as what they were previously as a renter. So I'm spending the same amount of money month by month that I was before, but now I'm building equity. So for me, the experience was challenging. I spent almost a year with a realtor, and I thank my realtor, his name's Chris Miller, so much for his patience with me. He actually never gave me a hard time that I took a year of his time in order to find the right spot. But he was sort of the center of my team. So as I needed other resources, he helped me by figuring out who are some of the best lenders that I could go through. He helped me figure out who is an attorney that I can trust who'll be able to help me get through the closing process. Who is a good inspector? And why do I even need a home inspection, first of all, but then who will do a good job on that front? So, I considered, for me, and I'm certainly not the expert here, but the realtor was the captain of my team. And they were then able to get me to all of the other resources I needed, such that when I finally got down to the closing table on, I think it was February 27th, it was actually a very easy and concluded process. We had all of our ducks in a row. We had all of our documents ready. We had all of our questions figured out. And it only took about an hour to get the I's dotted, the T's crossed, and the keys in my hand. And so for that, I am very grateful. Happy to answer any further questions, but I think we should turn it back to the experts.
Thank you so much, Jason. We appreciate that. That was a great story. And we're always excited to see individuals get into the real estate market and really look to expand their financial future by home ownership. So we're going to go ahead and get into the discussion with the experts. So I'm going to go over a couple ground rules. I'm going to introduce the individual participants and let you know what their roles are. And then I have a question, a follow-up question after they introduce themselves individually. They're going to give a 5-minute overview. And then we are going to go into some discussion questions. And from there, we will answer any questions that may be in the chat. All right. All right. So let's get started. So first on our panel for our discussion, we have our pre-purchase expert, Ms. Ashley Manigo. And Ms. Manigo is going to give us a 5-minute overview of what she does. And then we're going to ask her a couple questions. Ms. Manigo.
Thank you, Walter. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As a senior financial well-being coach with Operation Hope, specializing in home ownership, we do receive a lot of inquiries inquiring about what are the steps to become a homeowner? And I always tell people, or something to think about, the best way to fight fear is through knowledge. And the best way to get knowledge is through attending one of our 8-hour HUD-approved homebuyer education courses. This course is very detailed. It will walk you through the entire process of the homeownership, from understanding what is homeownership, the basics of what is a conventional mortgage versus government-backed mortgage. What does that mean? Going over PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, really the basis of homeownership. And then we also take it to another level and help you understand what are the requirements on your end to become a qualified home buyer. What are some budgeting tips? What are some tips you can do to improve your credit scores to be a better candidate for home ownership? And then we also invite industry experts to come in and speak on their expertise. Who better to learn from than the people who do it day in and day out? So we invite a lender representative to come in to speak on the lending process, talk about the loan process, how do you submit a loan, what are the key things that the lender may be looking for in your application for a mortgage. We also have a real estate agent come in to speak on how to select a real estate agent, so you can have the same experience as Jason, have the great agent to fight for you during this process. What are the things that you will experience searching for a home, especially in this climate of the pandemic or COVID-19? What are the things that you may want to do or may not want to do? We have those individuals come in and teach you about that. We have a inspector to tell you why an inspection is important. A lot of states, inspections are not required. So why should you get an inspection? We have some best practices in the inspection process to teach you about that. We also have an insurance agent come in. The insurance agent will tell you how to not only protect yourself, but also how to protect your new home, your biggest investment. We also have down payment assistance programs come in to speak about funding opportunities in your area. Who doesn't like assistance, free assistance, free money in a sense, to purchase a home? And then we have closing attorneys come in to understand what is the closing process. When you get to that closing table, what are these documents? What do they mean? Why am I signing all of this information? We have someone to explain that process to you in very great detail. And then we actually take it a step further and invite you to a one-on-one assessment. During this one-on-one assessment, we are looking at a personal look of your finances. We're looking at your check stubs, your bank statements, your credit report, your tax returns, all this information that the lender will also require to make sure that you are fully prepared to go through the process with no hiccups. And we follow with you throughout the process. If you're not quite ready financially, we will work with you on an ongoing basis to make sure that you are a qualified buyer, and we'll follow you through the closing process, all the way to the end. I tell people we're like a one-stop shop. You can come get educated and build your team right here with Operation Hope.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Ms. Manigo. That was awesome. I don't have any questions, any follow-up questions. You've actually answered all of those, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. The next participant I'm going to ask to speak is Sarah Ware, and she's going to talk about the realtor process. So Sarah, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And so the realtor process is just trying to piggyback off what Jason kind of alluded to when he explained his process. So you have a team. So as the captain of your team, you have a realtor, lender, inspector. It could be other participants that you may have outside that may, but those are the basic ones. So you want to strengthen your team by making sure you've done the research and find the best one. And so that, sometimes you can overdo it, sometimes you can underdo it. I mean, like like Ashley was talking about the housing counseling. I think that's very important. And sometimes people do it just because they may have down payment assistance attached to that, but I encourage people to do it. If you haven't taken it in a while, refresh. Laws are always changing when it comes to lending, when it comes to just best practices for buying a home, because the home, when you buy a home, it doesn't just stop there. There are things that you need to do after the fact. And so your team is also very instrumental to kind of keeping in touch. Like now, I'm sure Chester, he's in touch with clients that he may have serviced before because the rates have dropped. And so he's developed a relationship through, so I'm sure an email drip campaign, but that's an inside joke that we have, that he keeps in touch with his clients. But you want to keep in touch with your clients on an ongoing basis. Someone asked in the chat, how do you find a realtor? I will say I'm pleased that everyone is saying realtor, not realtor, because sometimes that just gives us some angst. But you can do a few things with the internet. You can do research, you can have a phone interview, you can get referrals from people that have done this process. But I say match the realtor to your expectations. You may have a friend that does it. They may work full-time, part-time. That may work for your schedule, that may not work for your schedule. That, they may know a market that you're trying to go in, they may not know the market. So I would say just because you know them and have a relationship with them, that may be a good realtor, but just not for you, what you like, your personality, their personality conflicts that may come up, or sometimes you just gel better with people. And then there's always I don't want this person knowing all my business, because they'll have access to personal information, even though we all are under a code of ethics and respect everyone's privacy. That just may be a personal choice. Your housing counsel can help with that process, and but just asking around and just basically knowing your fit. It's like a job interview. Just because you're interviewing on one side doesn't mean you don't interview on the other side, because sometimes it may be a good job, just not for you. And so I will say just an interview process, but don't overdo it. And be upfront. They can be upfront with you, you be upfront with them, because there's always those, my realtor, she's not doing this or he's not doing that. What was the relationship that was established from day one? Did everyone set the right expectations? And so I think that's, it's kind of like a team, like going back to that, just set the expectations in the beginning, and that way you'll have a smooth process. And as Jason brought out, it was a year process for him. It may be longer for some, it may be shorter for others, but knowing that relationship is going to be ongoing. So you want to make sure that you are putting the time in on the front end so it could be smooth, and you have someone to be your advocate at the end of the process.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for that. And you're absolutely correct. Homeowners, buyers who want to participate in the process absolutely need an advocate. And your homeownership counselor, your realtor, your lender, they should all be advocates for you. Great. So we're going to go ahead and move into the banking partner, Chester Bell with U.S. Bank. Chester, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, or afternoon at this point. First of all, I hope everyone is safe, healthy, and happy. And, we're talking about home ownership, and we all know that home ownership, or at least the beginning of home ownership, is kind of the building blocks that you need to build wealth. And, at U.S. Bank, we do pride ourselves on making sure that we provide great service to our clients. As Sarah actually alluded to earlier, I did a loan for her father almost 15 years ago, and it was such a great experience that he can't forget about me, and I make sure that I send him personal emails every year. And I hope he got my Christmas card, by the way, Sarah. So make sure he gets that to you. All right. But no, I'm an area sales manager at U.S. Bank. I've been in the mortgage industry for about 20 years now, and in my role at U.S. Bank, I'm basically responsible for overseeing our CRA home lending efforts in both Chicago and Milwaukee, as well as that Northwest Indiana and Southwest builder community. So a lot of the work we do is to develop a framework of strategy to make sure that we are reaching out to not only our non-for-profits, but our clients as well, to ensure that we are delivering grants and home ownership opportunities to strengthen and revitalize low to moderate income communities. As I mentioned before, home ownership is so vital to that first step of building wealth. And what we try to do at U.S. Bank is ensure that you have all the tools and resources to make that a possibility. We take pride in saying that we make believers out of dreamers. And so my team of mortgage professionals have partnered with several local nonprofits and community-based organizations to help well over 72,000 first-time home buyers. And I don't know if you know the statistics are not around first-time home buyers, but they are the ones that are really driving this purchase economy this year, and they will be moving forward. There's certain segmented communities within a first-time home buyer demographic, but we make sure that we try to work with everyone. And so, at U.S. Bank, we offer a good majority of down payment assistance programs to, again, help with folks in developing those strategies to help them build homes and providing the resources and tools that they need to do so. We have a dedicated mission to build long-standing relationships with our local and nonprofit organizations and government officials. You know, we are no strangers actually to community, because several of us serve on boards and committees in the Chicago Northwest area, and we pride ourselves on doing that. So, you know, what I'd like to do is certainly, as part of the discussion, is talk through that home ownership process, dispel any misnomers, and talk through what the lender plays in all of this. Because as Jason mentioned, yes, the realtor is, I guess you can consider them the quarterback, but we as lenders, we're kind of the straw that stirs the drink, because, you know, without us and making sure that you have a great process, a simplistic and a simplified, seamless process, and understanding your role, you know, how the rate plays into it, what programs are available, what your payment will be, how that reflects, you know, once you move into a property, and the difference between that renting and home ownership is where we play a key and vital role. And honestly, you know, the experience that we as lenders deliver to consumers really determines their overall experience of home ownership. And so it usually, you know, you hear nightmare stories about, well, the lender did this, the lender did that, but you never really hear about the realtor. It's always falls on our shoulders, which is fine. And we don't mind taking on that responsibility. So with that in mind, we try to make it our mission to make sure that we are delivering great service to our clients in our communities, because at the end of the day, you know, our clients just want to own a home and want to have a great experience in doing so that they can tell their neighbors, their coworkers, their family, their friends, whoever, to encourage them to buy a home anyway. Because right now, home ownership is vital to the economy. It's what's keeping the economy alive, quite frankly. And we need people to participate in that home ownership process. And U.S. Bank is proud to offer the services that we have, and certainly would be more than happy to help and assist you along your efforts to buying a house.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you as a bank partnership. We appreciate you. And I just have one thing to add, Chester. You said that the lender is the straw that that stirs the drink.
Stirs the drink.
Yes, I would have to say that the lender is the drink, because without the lender, there is no transaction. There is no home ownership. So the lender is critically important in this process, and you guys will find that out as we move forward. So we just talked about all the things it takes to get into a home. You met the counselor, you've met the lender, you've met the realtor. You've gotten into your house, and we're going to, of course, go to different questions. But one of the things that we want to talk about is what happens once you get into the house. How do you keep it? How do you keep ownership, and understand that keeping the ownership is just as important as getting the ownership? So we're going to have our foreclosure specialist and expert, Ava Dixon, give us just a brief overview of the foreclosure process. Ava, over to you.
Thank you, Walter. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ava Dixon, and I am a virtual well-being coach, financial well-being coach here in the Chicagoland area. So as Walter stated, once you get that congratulations, you've moved in and everything is bliss, one of the things that we want to do is keep you in your home. So the first thing that we try to advise clients is to be proactive. If you know that you're going through some challenges keeping your home, reach out to Operation Hope, reach out to one of our counselors, because we want to see your options. We don't want to wait until the last minute to you getting the last notice saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So we have several options when it comes to the foreclosure process, and every option is different for different clients. So one of our options, which we call waterfall options, are the reinstatement option, which is a change in a default status, accepting all payments in full. So if your situation is warranted for that, then that is something that we definitely want to look at. We also have other options as far as repayment, which the repayment plan, which you arrange, you make up the missed payments over time, and you stay current with the ongoing payments, which is the option for our clients. The other option is forbearance, which is a temporary postponement of mortgage payments granted by the lender. So that is something that we definitely want the client to know. We want them to understand all options and go over them thoroughly with them. One of the options also is loan modification. That is one of the most popular options. I know a lot of clients, when they call in, that's the first thing that they speak of. And sometimes their situation is not warranted for that. but that's just an agreement to permanently change one or more terms of the original mortgage, such as your interest rate, your payment amount, or the payment time extension, or all three. So knowing the options is very important. There are times where clients will call in where we just refer them to legal advice. We do not offer legal advice at Operation Hope, but if your situation is warranted, definitely advise that you speak with an attorney in regards to your situation. The other option that we have is short sale. A short sale is basically a pre-foreclosure sale when you're selling your house less than the remaining mortgage. That may be an option for you as well. We also have our last option, which is deed in lieu, where it gets to the point where, you know, you just say, I want to walk away. So you just turn over your house to the lender. So those are some of the options that you have. I don't want anyone to feel that if they're facing foreclosure, that that's the end of the world. So we do have options. All you have to do is reach out to us, and we're more than happy to assist you.
Thank you for that. Very good. And I'm going to just tell you, Ava, no disrespect to you, but I hope nobody ever needs you for that service. Okay.
I agree.
Great. We want to make sure individuals stay in their homes and they keep that wealth building going forward. All right, great. So now that we got all of our introductions, one thing I want to ask all the panelists to do, please put your contact information in the chat. There are some individuals asking for your contact information, whether it's emails or phone number, just so we can have individuals get in touch with you. And also make sure that you put your questions in the Q&A section of this platform. We're going to start going through questions shortly. And I'm going to start the question and answer session with Miss Ashley Manigo. We have a great question here from one of our anonymous attendees. It says, this is a great webinar, but can you explain how people can go about savings toward buying a home? I think that would be more beneficial for a lot of us to know. How can an individual go about saving toward buying a home?
Good question. Usually what I tell people to do is first understand your spending habits. When you first understand your spending habits, you can better create a budget that will allow for you to save more towards homeownership. So I advise clients to go back, look at your last 3-month bank statements in detail. I would sometimes give my clients homework assignments where they have pen and paper or highlighters and highlight every section of their bank statements. Give those sections categories, average those categories out, and then you can see what your typical spending habits have been over that period, 3-month period. And then make adjustments. Where do you find yourself spending more than necessary? Where can you cut back? Where can you cut some services? Identify those little key elements. And once you have identified those areas, automatically put that to the side for your savings. Automatically set up a separate savings account that has a great rate of return and use that primarily for your savings. So first, understand your spending habits and create a budget plan to help you save more.
Very good. Thank you for that, Ms. Manigo. And Chester, I have a question for you. What are the pros and cons of refinancing? And how do you know if you should refinance?
That's a really good question, one that we get asked all the time, quite frankly. The pros to refinancing are, I mean, if you're in a, let's say you're in a 30-year term mortgage, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, and that rate is somewhere in the mid 4s to high 5s, and rates right now are in the low 2s to mid 2s to high 3s, then that's probably a good indicator for you to think about refinancing. Obviously, that's largely dependent upon your equity position. That plays a major part in it. And also, if you're looking to take some cash out for whatever reason, I mean, what I'm finding and what we're finding is that, you know, during this pandemic and with folks working from home, it's kind of forced people to reassess their living situations and determine, you know, since all of us are home with the kids, we need some more space. So if I'm renting right now, home ownership is probably top of mind right now to try to achieve that. And if I'm refinancing, let's now take a look and re-examine our finances. We've been talking about refinancing for years now. Rates are at historic lows. Let's take a look at that and try to at least try to bring that into existence right now. We can save money, right? Lower our interest rate and lower the term and pay your house off a lot sooner. Now, the cons are if you have a pretty decent interest rate and let's say you're in a market where properties are not appreciating and you go to refinance and suddenly that your market value is less than what you thought, you might end up having to pay mortgage insurance, which is something that you don't want to do. So there's a lot of things that you have to weigh in terms of refinancing. If it's the right situation for you, is it going to save you money? Does it make sense? I mean, if you're going to pay cost to refinance and you're only saving $30, I mean, yeah, $30 over 15 years is a lot, but if that's something that's not on your radar, then I would certainly say don't worry about doing that. And what was the second part of that question? I'm sorry, Walter.
It was just about refinancing. How do you know when is the right time to do it?
Oh, well, like I said, you know, with rates the way that they are right now at historic lows, I would certainly encourage everyone to take a look at that situation and see if they can refinance. If you have an investment property that you own, excuse me, and you want to look at lowering your interest rate, now is the time to do that. Rates are going to probably hold steady now for the next 5 to 6 months. Now, they are predicting that refinances are going to go down about 20% for next year. But I would say now is definitely the time to consider about your refinance situation, and those that are renting a shared living situation, talk to a lender, get pre-approved, talk to a realtor like Sarah, who can show you different properties and look to change your living situation. I mean, there's so many programs out there. There's so many resources out there that you can take advantage of. The homeownership process is not as difficult as a lot of people make it out to be. There's a lot of moving parts to it, obviously. But again, we try to simplify it and make it as simple and easy as possible for you.
Great, thank you. Great segue for me. Thank you, I appreciate that. Sarah, I have a question for you. So with the rising housing market and with the pandemic, how can one purchase a home? Also, I want you to let us know what areas you cover as far as your realtor services as well.
Okay, so I'll take that question first. So I'm born and raised from the South Side, so I pretty much cover the Chicago metropolitan market, some parts of downtown South, and then from East, because I'm in South Shore. I'll go and just East all the way west to just the Chicagoland South metropolitan area for the most part.
Okay.
Because there's enough realtor members, 16,500 in the Chicago Association of Realtors, that can service all parts of the city. And before I answer that, I just want to touch on one thing. Ashley was so nice in talking about a budget and all those things that are very nice, but some people do not need to buy a house. They are not ready. And I'm sure they are sitting in Ava's office, and I'm sure Chester sees them all the time. But I think people need to do a self-evaluation of themselves and know their spending habits. The lender they take your spending habits off of numbers. Ava looks at, from the actual spending by the time you get to her. So I think people need to say that, they come to these seminars, which is a great thing. And I want people to be excited about it, but sometimes it is just not for them at that time. And then you have to show patience, because someone said, what's the best way to save? How much are you making? How much can you save? Because you have a yellow pad budget that's not realistic, because it doesn't take in those unforeseen circumstances. If you like to travel, if you like to go to the boat, I mean, those are things only you can decide that. And I think people get caught up into the dream of home ownership, TV, and that's a great thing. And then they end up in Ava's office, and then she's looking like, why were they even buying in the first place? So patience is something that, you really have to be careful and have patience, because if that's something for you, it will be for you. So you can't time the market and say, I should buy it now based on the rate. Just buy it when it's perfect for you. You have enough savings, your job situation may need to change, and things of that nature. So that's from the self-assessment side. So when somebody said how to save, what do you make? Do you need to make more money? You may need to change careers. And so those are things that they have to just take in consideration. Now, what was the last question was, what was
with the rising housing market and with the pandemic, how can one purchase a home?
So the housing market, it depends on what market you're looking in. And that's why you find a realtor team member that is familiar with that market. And so I kind of looked at some stats just as a whole, because people are looking at the pandemic as if to say, you know, things are down. So during the pandemic, real estate was still deemed an essential business. So we never stopped working, showing homes. We took precautions, but I'm very involved in the lobby side. We lobbied to get that as an essential service. But for the Chicago metropolitan market, and from October 2019 to October 2020, it has increased. Prices have increased 39%, and in Illinois, it's gone up 34%. So the homes sold. So when people are wondering what's going on with the market, I can do it like I put my contact information there. I can do a deeper dive. We break it down by neighborhood, by counties, and things of that nature. So you see all these pluses. Of course, people of color, sometimes we don't see the pluses in our markets, but understand that from a national standpoint, we just had a state of the market, and they already are projecting 2021, 2022 to be, the rates are still going to be lower and housing is still going to be increased. The election was over, market is doing well, even though unemployment is still at a high. We just need to be careful how to decipher those numbers. So this is, you know, we see those numbers, but don't think that there's not a discrepancy in certain neighborhoods. There is that, but know that the housing market is still on the rise and very vibrant.
So let me ask you a question. How can one find a realtor? And do they need to interview them? Is there a form that they need to sign to work with you?
So there's a buyer agency agreement that people go over. It's like a contract. You know, it depends on the realtor. My clients, if they don't want to work with me, then I don't, you know, that we discussed that, but there's an agency agreement that you sign for buyer agency here in Chicago. And for listing, there's a contract to sell. So you can realtor.com. You can go on there and look at your zip code, and there's a lot of agents that may have not filled out their profiles. So if they haven't filled out their profile, then maybe that's somebody that you may not want to work with if they have not been engaged from that standpoint. But that's a free website for a consumer and an agent website where we can go on as agents. If we are a licensed realtor that can use the trademark, we can go on there and register our name, talk about the markets we serve, word of mouth, Google. So they're just, you know, everybody's pretty savvy on the internet, but if you are not, then word of mouth. It could be from a faith-based, your clients, or faith-based, or a pastor. I haven't met too many people that do not have a link to finding a realtor these days.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Sarah. And Ava, I don't want to leave you out of the discussion. So the question I have is, what is the first step when an individual is facing foreclosure? What is the first thing that they should do when they're facing that situation?
Also, the first thing that a client should do if they're facing foreclosure is contact their lender. They need to know their options, and they need to get all the information that they can before they come to us. If that's not something that they're comfortable with, have them come to us, and we can call the lender together, get the information, get the person's name that you spoke with, so that we can lay everything out on the table so that we can find out what is best for the client.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And you're right. Definitely contacting the lender first. And you shouldn't wait till you get in trouble. You should actually be doing this in a proactive manner. So if you're going through your finances monthly, the way Ashley and Sarah and Chester have mentioned, you should know where you are in the sense of, will I be able to make my payments this month, next month, the following month? If you're in a position where you know you're not going to be able to make your payments, definitely reach out to a counselor, to your lender, let them know what's going on. It's very, very important that you do that. Great. And we got the questions just flowing today. So what I would like for is the panelists to go into the chat and answer any questions that you may feel that you can answer. I see Chester's already started answering some of the questions in the chat, and I'm going to go directly to the Q&A and then ask questions based on the information that's here for the Q&A. So I'm going to have this one be for Chester. What are the necessary financial requirements for home ownership?
First of all, you have to be employed, all right? Because we have to know that source of income that's going to make the bills on time. Secondly, we look at, well, there's a lot of metrics involved in different requirements for buying a house. Largely, if you have a solid source of income, you have money that's at least, you've accumulated some type of savings in your account, whether it be through investments or checking or savings or whatever. And let me also look at the credit as well. So we look at this called the 3 C's: credit, collateral, and capacity. So that credit piece is your credibility. Do you have the money and the capacity to pay the mortgage? Do you have the credit to pay the mortgage? The capacity is the overall kind of picture of credit, income, debt. Do those metrics line up to show that, one thing about buying a home, but it's also another thing about sustainable home ownership. The last thing that we want to do is put you in a home that we have to come back 2 years later and take back. That's not what we want to do. So sustainable home ownership is number one. It's key to vital home ownership. And lastly is collateral. It's the property itself. So one of the things I would strongly encourage outside of talking to a realtor is get an inspection. I mean, you have to do kind of an autopsy on that property and see the things that maybe you couldn't see on the surface. So looking at the 3 C's, credit, capacity, and collateral is what we use to determine the viability of purchasing a property. Now, can we at times go outside the lines and get exceptions for certain things that don't necessarily fit the criteria? Of course we can. Most lenders can do that too. And we advocate very strongly for that on behalf of our clients, because we realize this isn't a cookie cutter approach, and this isn't a one size fits all mortgage. This is all based on everyone's unique situation. So it's up to us to analyze that customer's financials, take a look and take a deeper dive with them, understand their financial goals, understand what they're looking to accomplish, and recommend solutions to help them have sustainable home ownership, whether it be through down payment assistance programs, low interest rate programs, expanded terms, you name it, we have it. And that's our goal, is to make sure that we paint that financial picture for them and deliver those services to help them achieve home ownership.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Chester. So my next question is for Ms. Manigo. What would you tell someone to get their credit score to, what would you tell someone to get their credit score to before realistically looking at purchasing a home?
To answer that question, I'm gonna break it down into 3 segments. The average credit score requirement to qualify with a lender is 620. However, as your credit score increases, there are greater opportunities available to purchase a home. For example, when your credit score reaches a 640 on average, you qualify for down payment assistance. So that is a little bit motivation to get your credit score higher than the industry average. But as your credit score continues to increase, there are some special programs available. So on average, I encourage people to aim for, if you want to take qualify down payment assistance programs and get all the opportunities available for having a higher credit score, I tell individuals aim for a 700 credit score. That way they can not only qualify, they can also qualify for down payment assistance programs. And if they are, for example, individual who have a lot of student loans, sometimes there are workarounds when you have a higher credit score, but the minimum requirement to purchase a home is a 620.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Manigo. And Ashley is an expert at getting people's credit to a 620 and higher to get them to the best place to be able to get financing. So I'm going to have this as an open discussion for the panel. And this is a different question than homeownership, but I think it's relevant. So someone said they're looking to build a real estate investment portfolio, which is, I think, is great, and everyone should build a real estate investment portfolio. So how do lenders view whether you are credit worthy to hold more than one property? So I guess this will be for Chester.
Again, that goes back to, that's a great question, by the way, and we want to support building your portfolio. It goes back to, again, that piece is really more along the lines of capacity. So when you're buying, let's say I have a property right now and I have my eye on this 2-unit that I think would make a phenomenal investment property. I could put some renters in there, get some folks, have them buy or have them in there, rent the property. That's great. So what we look at is your ability to be able to buy this 2-unit. But then what we also do is we do what's called a market analysis on the rents in that area to determine how much per unit would you be able to get for rent, likely. And then we use that as income to help you qualify for that property as an investor in this particular property. So we actually use the income, the projected income that you would receive from renting that particular property to help you qualify. And if you're looking to buy another property, we would do the same thing. And then at some point, we have to look at the overall capacity of your portfolio to make sure that your financials and your cash flow is strong enough to sustain those properties. Now, usually, if you're buying the 2-unit property, especially in today's rate environment, the amount of rent that you're going to receive should easily surpass your mortgage payment. So that essentially should pay for itself. And at the same time, you're also building wealth and equity for yourself that you can pass along to your family, your generations, or whatever. So looking at buying the 2-unit or any type of property for that matter is something that lenders do strongly encourage, as long as you have the capacity to do so. Because the last thing that we want to do is where you're overcapitalized and suddenly having a difficult time trying to manage and stay afloat with all these different properties. At some point, if you experience some kind of financial hardship, something's got to go, and it's not going to be your primary home. It's going to be that investment property, which is why most lenders require that you put down a little bit more on an investment type property than anything else. And then aside from investment properties, you have those that want to buy second homes, right? So folks that want to, maybe they're snowbirds, they maybe want to buy a property in Florida or maybe buy a property elsewhere. We encourage that as well. And we also have low down payments. Now with that, obviously there's no rent because that's almost an extension of your primary home. There's no one going to be renting there. So we can't use that income, that projected income, to help you qualify. So in that sense, you would have to have a strong enough income position to be able to carry both mortgages for your primary home and your second home. But again, that's something that we strongly encourage because we want people to build a portfolio of home ownership, one that they can pass down and start to, again, build those building blocks of generational wealth for them and their families.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer. Thank you very much. So we are getting close to our time. We probably have about 6 minutes left or so. So I'm going to open the floor up to all of the panelists. And so this will be an open discussion and question session. Try to keep your answers maybe within 30 seconds if possible, so we can get to as many questions as possible. But I want everybody to have an opportunity to speak, okay? So great. So for all panelists, what's the best advice regarding home ownership? What's the best advice that you can give someone regarding that? Sarah?
Buy when you are ready. Don't let any outside influences that are not contributing to your household get into your head, because it all becomes on you. So everybody who has a decision in paying the mortgage should be the one deciding to help you buy that house.
Very good. Ashley?
Ashley, you are on mute.
Okay, you're off mute now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The best advice I would give someone is to do your research. Not only do your research on the market, but do your research within your home, right? Kind of leading to what Sarah said, make sure that you can afford to buy a home. Make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, attend a webinar, do your research, be fully informed of what homeownership is, what it takes to become a homeowner and to maintain your home before actually going through the process, and follow the process all the way through.
Thank you for that great answer. Chester?
I would echo the sentiments of Sarah and Ashley in saying 3 simple words: know before you owe. So do your research as they suggested, talk to a lender, understand what your options are before you owe, because once you owe, you own it, and you have to be able to make that payment. So know before you owe. That's my advice.
Very good. I like that. I like that. Ava?
I have to agree with Chester. Know before you owe, so that you will not have to see a foreclosure specialist in any type of way, and you can continue to make your payments. Make sure your payments are affordable so that you can enjoy your home.
Thank you. Great. So the next question would be the opposite. What's the worst? What's the most advice you hear that people say that they gotten that's not accurate? Ashley?
The worst advice I hear is you don't need money to purchase a home. There are a lot of people who listen to family and friends and say, well, you can use down payment assistance. No, that is not the answer. You always need personal savings to purchase a home. There are a lot of upfront fees involved. There are a lot of fees after you purchase your home, and there are a lot of fees to maintain your home. So you always need personal savings.
Thank you for that. And real quick, I want to answer a question because I think it's important. Someone put a question in the Q&A session in response to the recent information provided that a minimum score of 620 is required. I recently received the information that one can attain an FHA mortgage with a minimum credit score of 585. Chester, is that true? We know it's true, but Chester, tell them why that's not the best way to go.
That is true, but understand that at that particular level, at 585, there's a lot of requirements that are that suddenly come into play. Number one, you have to put more money down. Number two, your financials in terms of your debt to income ratio gets compressed. So you wouldn't be able to afford as much property because now FHA typically goes up to 50%. Now that's going to be compressed to about 41%, 42%. So now you're affording less property. And getting back to what Ashley mentioned, about misnomers in the mortgage or buying a property, you don't need 20% down and you don't need 700 credit scores. There's a lot of programs out there that require less than about 3% down. Most of that can be used from gift, grant, or any other sources for down payment. And you don't need a 700 credit score. We go all the way down to a 620 and 640 as well. So those are some of the misnomers and bad advice that people give to homeowners is that, or potential homeowners, is you got to have 20% down and the 700 credit score. That's just simply not true.
Thank you for that. And that is definitely not true. But one of the things I want everyone to take away from this is that the better you are financially, the better you will be financially. Meaning if you have a 585 credit score, you put yourself in a position where you have higher interest rates and not the best loan programs that are available. If you have a 700 credit score, however, or a 680 credit score, however, you put yourself in the best possible position to have the best possible interest rate and the best long term. So look at bettering yourself in every way. So I just have couple other questions real quick. So I guess the last thing we'll just go with, and we have 1 more minute. What's your best tip, key tip, one word for every person? And we'll start with Sarah.
Patience.
Patience. Very good. Very good. Very good, Sarah. Ashley.
Process.
Process. Very, very good, Ashley. Patience and process, the 2 P's. Chester.
Tenacity.
Tenacity. I love that. I love that. Patience, process, tenacity. Ava, how about yourself?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. All right. I love that as well. So we want to have patience. We want to make sure we follow the process. We want to make sure that we have tenacity because it's going to take that in order to get the job done and get yourselves into a home. And you're going to have to be knowledgeable about what's going on throughout the process as you move forward. So my internet connection has been a little unstable. Sorry about that. But I think this has been a great, great discussion. I want to leave everyone with this last thing. I mentioned ownership in the beginning of the process, and I hope you've had an opportunity to really digest what ownership means. And so that means ownership of your income, ownership of your credit, ownership of your savings, and ownership of your time, which will help you have and create wealth through home ownership. So I want to turn this back over to Jason. Thanks everyone for their participation. And we really appreciate our panelists, Ava, Chester, Ashley, Sarah. Please reach out to them. They will be more than happy to put you in the right direction. My name is Walter DEES. Thank you so much. Jason, over to you.
Wow. Well, what a session. And thank you so much, Walter, for your moderation here. We are going into here at 12:30 our keynote session, which is with Chicago Treasurer Melissa Conyears-Ervin and Operation Hope Chairman and CEO John Hope Bryant. There is a major announcement that will be made during that session in a few minutes. But wasn't this something, right? Looking at how we can go about building wealth through home ownership and dispelling a lot of the rumors that we may have heard, that we may have seen. So I highly recommend all of you that are on here that you reach out to the panelists here who have all posted their contact information. You can also find them on the Whova app, which is the home site for this presentation and for this day, for the summit, as well as you are able to see replays and recordings of all of the sessions that we've had so far. We cannot wait to see you on there. Get excited. Thanks.
Thank you.